Hello everybody, I am Jared Ross, the Genie Vlogger, and welcome back to another Professional Genealogist Reacts. On today's video, I will be reacting to We Took a DNA Test by J. Crew Fam. Not familiar with this channel at all. Looks like one of those family channels, which I really don't watch a lot of those channels. Sometimes those family channels have some weird things going on and, you know, maybe it's just the ones you hear about in the news. But I took a quick look at their channel and they look like they are likely from a European ancestry. Not quite sure what, but I'm not really gonna make any guesses. Let's just jump right into it.
Today we're gonna reveal where we're from.
Yeah, you guys always ask in our comments, are you guys Palestinian, are you German? Some of you even asking for Italian.
Yeah.
So we're gonna tell you guys where we're from.
This is the thing here. I was born in Germany and I was raised there. I left Germany when I was 15. My dad, my papa, yes, my papa is Palestinian. He was born in Jerusalem and
Interesting.
You know, grew up there, lived there, but he went to Germany when he was 18. He went to college there. And then my mom, she's actually first generation American. Her parents are German. She went to Germany to live there for a little bit. She loved Europe and Germany. And then she met my dad and ended up staying there, and then I was born. And then she went back to the States. So yes, we do live in America.
Well, what about where's...
That's a very interesting background, and I would not expect that at all with her accent. I mean, I guess it really depends on how much she grew up in Germany, and especially did she work on getting an American accent, but like, she just has a straight up American accent sounding to me, so that should be interesting though, especially... maybe she'll go a bit further into her German side, but I wonder, you know, what she'll get with that in terms of, you know, is she going to get a lot more of that Northeastern European, or not Northeastern, excuse me, Northwestern European, or is she going to get more of that sort of Eastern Central European sort of in there? I don't know. We'll have to see. Germany's one of those places that, you know, it's so Central Europe, so many population groups have come in and out. They really... to like everywhere else in Europe. So it can really vary when you look at people, you know, if they're from West Germany or East Germany, the DNA can look very different.
Here's a picture of my dad and my mom when they were young.
Very like J-Mom's story. Now we're gonna show you guys our ancestry.
Okay, yes, now let's...
The actual ancestry would be awesome, because if we get the actual ancestry, then we can really get a good idea once we see the DNA results. How likely is it to what is connected there, and is there anything that stands out that might be findable in genealogy, or at least, you know, there's a good direction of how to find it?
Let's look at mine first. So here are my DNA results. So I'm 31% Levant, which means Eastern Mediterranean and Egypt. Also Southern Lebanon and Northern Israel, Palestine. Well, I already told you guys my dad is from Palestine. And then it says I am 25% Eastern Europe and Russian. Wow, I didn't know that. And then it says I'm 20% Germanic Europe, which means probably German, which I didn't know that.
20%.
Only 20%, yes. I'm 11% Egyptian. That's pretty cool.
Now, this is interesting looking at a lot of this, because it certainly seems like there's a big mix here, and I wonder what sort of representation is going on, because with her father being from Palestine, I do wonder what his history could be, because like some of this, like the Egyptian is most likely coming from her father's side, and the Arabian Peninsula probably from the father's side, but then stuff like Cyprus. For some reason, I was thinking I saw Greece, but I guess maybe I was just making that up. But, southern Italy, because those are in the Mediterranean, there is that possibility that it could be coming from that side, and there's something else going on with her ancestry from her father's side that she doesn't know. Of course, there's also just the fact that a lot of these things are difficult to read. So I know that when I watch these videos, I constantly will comment about, you know, people jumping to conclusions and things like that, but then I'll kind of make guesses like what I just did there. But the thing to mention with that is that you need to make sure that when you do that, that you're hypothesizing and not jumping to conclusions. So there's a difference between, you know, just hypothesizing, discussing what are the possibilities versus choosing a possibility and going, okay, that's the most likely thing. which seems to be what a lot of people do. But with this mix that she has, it's certainly a lot of things that could be a possibility, but it is kind of an interesting thing of what's coming from her dad and what's coming from her mom, just in the sense that there are a few that could possibly be coming from each side. But I think it's fairly distinct with what's coming from mom and what's coming from dad. Obviously, with the Germanic side, it seems to be leaning much more towards that Eastern German, Eastern European sort of, ancestry. So Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, which actually looking at the communities, she has South Poland, Slovakia, North Hungary, Western Slovakia, and Central Hungary, and then Northeast Zlenia, which I'm not sure where that is. I don't even know if I said any of that right. So definitely not far East Europe. We're not talking about like Ukraine or things like, Belarus or anything like that. But it is starting to get into the eastern part of Europe. All right, I'm going to stop rambling and let's just continue.
I wanted to go to Egypt, and then 5% Swedish and Denmark. I didn't know that.
You're 1% Italian.
Yeah, that's from actually my mom's side. My grandpa, yeah, he has Italian and French actually, which doesn't show French here, which is weird. But also I am 4% Arabian Peninsula, Nilotic peoples. What is that? Oh, that's in Africa. And then Southern Italian. Yeah.
And we all have DNA accounts except for Liam. So we're gonna order him a DNA account and we're gonna see how much of he is. We're gonna order.
Now, the more interesting thing would be to find out if we could get her parents a DNA test. I don't know if they're still around, but if they are and they're willing to do a DNA test, at least in terms of figuring out the true ancestry and building a tree, that would be what would be the most helpful.
Liam an Ancestry package today, and guys, keep watching to see how much percent Liam is and everything.
Yes, but now actually let's
that one daughter really is a showman in the family. All the other kids are just kind of like hanging out, but she's like, I'm gonna sell this stuff and we're gonna I'm doing this YouTube thing.
reveal the kids. Okay, or should we do J-Dad first?
J-Dad, come on, you can't forgive
I
me.
think this is cool because I love knowing where everyone's from. Also, guys, comment below where you guys are from because we would love to know.
So now we have J-Dad over here. So, 25% Norwegian.
No, which one's J-Dad? Is that one of the kids?
Also, guys, comment below where you.
Actually, let's reveal the kids. Okay, or should we do J-Dad first?
J-Dad, come on, you can't forgive
I
me.
think this is cool because I love knowing where
this is the
everyone's
dad.
from. Also, guys, comment.
Here, so
J-Dad. I'm so lost.
25% Norwegian.
Yep.
Wow.
Very nice, very nice.
No, they didn't mention his ancestry before. I think she just talked about hers. So, yeah. So I guess this is all kind of,
81%
Swedish, Swedish
Maybe we
from
can guess
Denmark.
what his
So
parents.
actually, that was how much did I have? I forgot.
20%.
So wow. So the kids must have a lot of
But
Swedish and
her Swedish and Denmark, I thought she only had like 5%. Let's see where we're at. 316. Yeah, she only had 5%, and hers don't give communities. So hers may really just be more of just not necessarily a misread, but just the difficulty in reading European DNA. And so probably just the sense that, if you look at a map where Sweden and Denmark is, Germany, Denmark, Sweden. So it's like, it makes sense. So with 5%, she may have actual Swedish and Denmark DNA, or it just may be the difficulty. But looking at the husband's, he has actual Swedish ancestry, and specifically, they're even getting these communities, Astra Småland and Blelking. I'm sure I butchered the pronunciation there. So that indicates that the community is coming up because he has a lot of DNA matches who indicate that's where their family's from. So this percentage, the 21%, that's coming from the actual reading the DNA and analyzing it and seeing, based on the population clusters that they've come up with, what does his DNA correlate to. So 21% of his DNA correlates to the population cluster they defined as Sweden and Denmark. But then, for the communities, they've just looked at who are all the people that are matching him on his DNA that also have Sweden and Denmark. And for those, is there a common area that they are all placing as their ancestral locations? And that was one of them, is Astra Småland Blekking, or whatever that is. I don't know how large or small of a region that may be. If she shows the map, we'll be able to see. But that is then a place where if he didn't know he had Ancestry and he started to do his family tree, more than likely he's going to find Ancestry there. And that's kind of the same thing with a lot of the communities. The communities I find have a lot more confidence in them than the percentages. The percentages have a higher margin of error, you could kind of think.
Oh, wow. You have 17% Eastern European and Russian as well.
Oh, okay.
Well, I had more than that.
England and
England.
Ooh,
Wow.
15%.
Wow. Baltics. 12% Baltics. Where's that at? Oh, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Germanic, European.
So looking at his, I wonder if we can kind of get an idea of what his parents' breakup may be, because I mean, here with Norway and Sweden and Denmark, that's, I mean, obviously, you know, we're talking about the Scandinavian countries, so that's all connected very strongly. So that could be one parent, assuming that both parents don't come from a very similar background. But then with the Eastern Europe and Russia, and then the Baltics and Germanic Europe, that all kind of lines up together. Whereas the England and Northwestern Europe it fits more with the Sweden and Denmark and Scandinavia, because Northwestern Europe, it's very common to get a lot of those together. So kind of Ireland, same thing with that. But the percentages then are getting well over 50%. So there's definitely, I'm guessing that he's getting representation from both parents in multiple readings. So basically, you know, England and Northwestern Europe may be a representation of both his mom and dad. But I'd be very curious what his ancestry is, because the way that his European is broken up, it gives me the feeling that he probably comes from, like, he's probably like a 4th or 5th generation American on most of his family lines. Basically, if you were to look at his family tree, his grandparents or great-grandparents were a lot of the first-generation Americans in the family. Not 100% if that's true, but I just kind of get the feeling of that, just because if he comes from a longer line of American families, like basically, you know, he came from, you know, colonial settlers and things, they seem to get those pretty decently well in terms of the communities, but they're not picking those up here, which makes me think that he's probably a recent generation American. I mean, with these results, he could be a first-generation American technically, but I'm guessing with the mixture that these are, because we're seeing a lot of both Western Europe and Eastern Europe that you don't often see together, just in the way that these readings can be complicated. So that's my guess. I would not be surprised if we're really looking at not just his parents having different ancestries, but like each one of his grandparents, like a grandparent from this area in southern Sweden, a grandparent from North Norway, a grandparent from Poland, and then maybe a grandparent from England or somewhere else in Europe. Maybe even like Central Europe could even be like French or Dutch or, you know, something like that, because for a lot of these companies, they may not even put all the countries in the readings. So let's continue. I think I'm starting to ramble.
Now, so we checked out J-Dad's. Let's check out the kids.
Mine first, please.
All right, let's check out Priscilla's.
Now, what will be interesting here is just to see how the breakdown of what theirs was now goes to the kids.
I'm 21% Swedish and Denmark.
So, and then she's getting that reading just like her father was, which makes sense because now, for one, she's probably getting this 21% because she's getting a lot of that amount from her dad. And then her mother was getting that reading, whether or not she has that true Swedish or Denmark ancestry. If she's just getting that reading, it certainly makes sense that the daughter possibly could have inherited some of that DNA that Ancestry is picking up as Swedish and Denmark. So her having pretty close to what her father had makes a lot of sense, but that her catching that region as well really is telling of how strong or how close that Ancestry is.
Wow.
19% German.
Yeah, so yeah, the 19% German, 16% Eastern Europe and Russia, the 10% Levant, so that's obviously her Palestinian grandfather, and it even still gets that same community that her mother got. And then for that Norway, once again getting the same community that her father got, that northern Norway, Nordland, Troms, whatever. If we go back here, we can see that he had it Nordland Troms. So yeah, so it's very interesting. A lot of the smaller ones are kind of well, actually, hold on, they haven't scrolled down. I guess we have to see.
And Denmark 17%, Norwegian 13%.
Okay, so she is
Middle Eastern.
And now here's the interesting thing, and where it goes to show how these tests really get complicated, especially with the smaller percentages, is now all of a sudden she's getting readings that neither parent got. I'm pretty sure neither got Anatolia and the Caucasus. Let me just double check. Yeah, no Anatolia and the Caucasus. I mean, Cyprus is close, but yeah. So, that goes to show that, okay, well, she's getting it, but neither of her parents are getting it. So that's probably just a reading of complication. And then same with the Aegean Islands, and then, a lot of this other stuff. So this is one of the reasons why I'm always talking about why these smaller percentages you have much less confidence in. And, people always hear me say the term trace result, which doesn't mean that it's not true. Trace result really is just saying that this is such a small percentage that our confidence is now much lower. And so we can see, having seen the parents, and her face says it all. Like, her face is like, wait, what? Why am I getting this? This makes no sense. But that's kind of how that is it's like, you test the parents and you get a much better picture of the ancestry, but every time you go down a generation, it's complicated because now you've got more DNA in the mix. Yeah, I'm not going to ramble. Let's continue.
Islands, that's Greece.
Wow.
Greece.
1%. It's only 1%.
So, wait, but it says also found in Italy and Turkey. So I think that's from your grandpa, my dad's side. So let's see. Let's see Anthony. I'm very interested in Anthony.
31% Swedish and Denmark.
Wow.
Now, interesting that the son isn't getting the communities picked up there. I wonder if you looked at his DNA matches, are a lot of the matches that his dad and sister are getting from that side not coming through. But it's really interesting, especially in that he got more DNA than both his sister and dad for the Swedish and Denmark. And then, it's just going to be the same. All the kids are going to be about the same, just slightly different.
English? 13% English? That's crazy.
Dang.
Middle Eastern, 12%. So he's actually more than Priscilla and Maddie.
But I used to be more.
From Norway, 12%. Russia, he doesn't have a lot of Eastern European in him, only 12%. Baltics, 7%. Egypt,
See, now he's getting France and none of them did. What?
3%. 3% French. Arabian Peninsula, 2%.
Who was I?
Cyprus, 2%. Scottish, 2%.
Wait, 1%? 1%?
German, guys.
Wow.
Also, fun fact, our older sister's fiance, Woojin, he's like 100% Korean.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Yeah, Asian.
Yeah, but that's because these tests are extremely unnuanced for Asian readings. And this video is from within the past year, but a lot of people who are Asian that take a 23andMe test or MyHeritage or Ancestry or, the typical English-speaking country DNA tests, they don't get very nuanced results. Some of these tests are doing a bit better with their results, but if they want a truly nuanced breakdown, much better than what you can get here, it's usually better to go with like 23andMe or Weegene or things like that. But I don't know how good their DNA matching is, like how many, if they give you genetic matches or, any of that stuff, which in my opinion is the true power of these tests. And that's what the true value is. Granted, I don't know how much better it would be for the matching through these other tests, because you probably don't get a ton of matches from Asia in, Ancestry, but it still is just one of those things where if you do want to have a more nuanced breakdown, it's probably better to go with one of those. But let's continue.
No, I actually think he has other Asian.
No.
Oh, it's only 100% Korea?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so.
See, my dad is 100.
so.
No, my dad has, if you look at my dad's, he has Middle Eastern and African only. But my mom is all mixture of everything.
Now, I'd really like to see the parents' DNA results, because that would be really interesting. Because just like seeing the kids and then seeing those results pop up, the small percentages that neither parent got, which is a likely indicator of false readings. So it's likely the same thing with her. So if we looked at the parents' results, a lot of her smaller percentages that, it's like, are they true? Are they not? get a much better idea. So to especially see, does, you know, one of the parents get a good amount of Italian, and what were some of the other ones? She had a lot of small ones that were like really interesting. So yeah, like the Southern Italian, the Cyprus, the Neolithic peoples, you know, what are those true? I'm sure the Arabian Peninsula, you know, that makes a lot of sense with her father being Palestinian, but yeah.
If you look at my dad's, he has Middle Eastern and African only, but my mom is all mixture of everything. And then my daughter Sabrina, she has a lot of mixture because she's also half Bolivian.
All right, do you think he is more Middle Eastern or European?
He's an alien.
I mean, definitely more European, because with all of the Middle Eastern, they all had much less than 50%. I mean, if it's just her dad, that means that most of them are probably going to get less than 25% of Middle Eastern, especially if her dad wasn't fully Middle Eastern. She said part African, part Middle Eastern. Granted, maybe she meant North African. He's definitely more European. It's guaranteed.
100% shred, that's for sure.
Alright, so we will be back once it arrives.
Alright, so that's the end of the video. It was okay video. I mean, kind of what I would expect for a family vlog channel type of thing. Not super in-depth. It was nice to get kind of a little bit of a family background. It would have been nice to hear from the dad what his background was, unless maybe I missed that for some reason, just didn't pay attention. But it would certainly be interesting to see the wife's parents' results, especially since she said she already has the results for them. So that would be interesting to see, especially having seen hers. And then it would be nice to possibly see, you know, maybe a bit more of a family tree in terms of not even names or anything, just, you know, kind of a family tree of, all right, well, where did the grandparents come from and where did the great-grandparents come from, if you possibly know. But if you enjoyed this reaction, you'd like to see me do more, be sure to check out this video right here. Thank you to my Patreon patrons and YouTube members.